You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Hello again, everyone. This is Doug Thorpe, and you're listening to another episode of Leadership Powered by Common Sense. Today, my guest is going to guide us through something that she calls the 4 pillars of leadership. I think it's a very interesting structure, and I'm going to let her elaborate on it. But without any further ado, I would like to introduce Valerie Sandjivy. Valerie, welcome to the show.
Hello, Doug. Thank you for having me in the show.
And tell folks where you are located.
Yes, I'm located in Paris, France, hence the accent. And it's a beautiful spring day today in Paris.
I take it you are a native of the country there with the accent. Yes, wonderful. Yes. Very good. Very good. Well, it's a pleasure, and thank you for joining us. We always have a little bit of a challenge with these international interviews, getting the time zones right. The bulk of the European continent is not too bad. We can usually get it on the same calendar day, but I've had guests from down under, and that's tricky. Trying to get Australia or New Zealand booked. But anyway,
I think Australia is tricky for everybody else than Australia.
But the brave new world we're in today. But thank you for coming on board and getting this done. So, as is a bit of a tradition here on the show, give us your backstory. Give us that journey that brought you to this framework of leadership understanding.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you for asking. So, I am a mechanical engineer. Not by choice, but I'm going to explain later on. So I'm a mechanical engineer, and I have as well a master's degree from an international business school, which again, I didn't choose to, but again, I will explain why I'm saying that. And I spent 20 years in different corporate positions up to C-level. I spent 7 years in Detroit. I was the head of a business unit over there in Detroit, Michigan. I was as well a VP of sales, and I was managing 100 million euros, which was a huge account. So you have to deal with customer money and everything. So that was a lot of responsibilities. And I was as well the one who was always sent to open new doors. Go to Detroit, open the new business unit. Go to Japan because we want to enter this market. Go to Brazil because we want to open a new plant. Then I went for healthcare and opened this new facility that we don't have, that nobody did in France. So I was always the one, opening those new things. That was a common thread from my path. I left the corporate world, not completely, but I left the corporate world 11 years ago when I started my business. And today I am a business coach and a mentor. And it's all about leadership, how to lead, how to lead ourselves, how to help people to lead the team, because I've been doing that for 17 years, in my path. So it was a journey. And I really want today to, I don't want to say help anymore, but I want to say to serve. This is better for me now, because I don't think people need to be helped. People need to be served. That's a different level of service. And with my experience, and many people have experience, on leadership, and I want to bring mine, which is around adaptation. How do we need to adapt ourselves? The world is changing constantly. Economy, geopolitics, everything is changing, and companies, we are in the middle of that, and we need to adapt ourselves. So, and it's coming from the leaders, of course, and then they help the team to change and to adapt to those new patterns, to those new environment, to the new generations, new economics, new deals, new everything. So that's has been my path. And today I'm coaching and helping people, doing that. And with my method, which is the 4 pillars, like you mentioned earlier on.
Well, I am curious. You mentioned your schooling. I think you said not particularly by choice. Tell us that part of the story.
Yeah, for me, the journey is there is an inner journey and an outer journey. And for me, I can really say that the outer journey was a reflection of the inner journey, which I didn't know at that point. Really, I didn't know. So, I'm in school and everybody is going for engineering. So I'm doing that, not that I wanted to, it's like all my friends were going for engineering. So let's go, let's do it. So I was doing that. And I said, okay, what do I want to do? So mechanical was there because I studied with many, many guys. So it was mechanical, of course. So I was one of the only, girl doing the mechanical engineering, which I was happy to, because, even if I didn't really, it was not really it was a choice actually, but not a desire. I didn't desire to do that. But what I want to be responsible is like it was a choice. I made the choice to do it. Nobody forced me to do it. Nobody said, you have to do that. So that's why I'm saying always, the inner journey and the outer journey. And the inner journey was like the soul telling you, okay, go there. And for me, do I make the choice to do it or not? I could have said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something else. But I'm pretty sure that my soul would have, brought me back on a path. Because I do really believe that there is a path, not a destiny. I don't really believe in that word, but we can. I mean, people do, and it's perfect. But I truly believe that there is a journey that our soul is here to drive us on. And it's part of the inner journey that we don't know, but the outer journey is the reflection of that. And it takes, responsibility of the choice that we are making. So I made the choice to be an engineer and I'm happy about that choice. And then later on, I went to this business school. Again, it was on my journey, and it shows up. And I say, do I want to do that? And then I said, okay, I'm going to do it. Like even in my corporate journey, okay, my boss told me one day, okay, we have to open this business unit in Detroit. Are you in? And it took me, a few seconds, and I said, okay, I'm in. I made the choice.
Yeah.
But I didn't, look for that. Like when I was managing, the big account, like 100 millions, I didn't say I want to manage a big account. It was showing, it shows up. Okay, do I do it or not? But then when I made the choice, I decided I'm going to do it, the best I could. It would take a lot of adaptation, a lot of changes, a lot of inner reflection, a lot of, I'm here to learn something. I'm here to train myself on something. And then at one point, this will serve. I didn't know that at that time. I just knew that I was doing something to learn something, to practice something. And then after, when I looked at all the journey, I said, oh, of course, now I understand the journey.
It's very interesting you describe it that way, because I have to say I've had that exact same experience. There's so many moments in my career journey of different things, different opportunities, different challenges, different situations that I was asked to step into, serve, and do. And on one hand, you could say, is there a technical pattern to this? Is there a commonality to it? And the answer is no. It's pretty wildly dispersed. Yet, as you say, there were elements of each one of those experiences that kind of created this patchwork quilt that I now use as a reservoir of ideas and experiences to serve my clients as well. And it's I count it as a huge blessing. I mean, it's just, if I hadn't done all those crazy disjointed things, I couldn't do what I do now. And the other thing I want to ask, a little bit of a detour here. I'm curious, to describe yourself academically as an engineer. Your personality doesn't line up as an engineer. What you're showing me right now in your in your energy and all, has that been an evolutionary thing for you, or do you think you were the typical engineer when you started in school?
No, I think I don't think I'm a typical in anything. First of all, I live in France. My parents are from India, originally, but we are French. I was born in France. And then I remember I was working in the US, and people will see me, with, my skin colors, and I'm not, I don't have any shame speaking about my skin colors. And they would say, but it doesn't fit with your accent, and you live here, you feel like more maybe Brazilian, Mexican, South American, and you have this accent which doesn't reflect that country. And then I was in Japan, a woman in Japan, working in automotive. That was not, easy because they would only speak to the guys, never to me. I was always, the lead there, but they would always speaking to my team, not to me. So I don't think I had a typical anything in my life. But again, like you said, all this is like, it's like I had this and that, and I took all of it like a quilt, like you said, and I did my own patchwork. And that's what I can bring today, in the world of leadership, because leadership is all about that. You are facing a situation, what do you do with it? You are in this, situation that you have nobody did it, or the team doesn't know how to handle it, and you are in this situation, how do you do it? So for me, it's like each time I was pushed in the big, in the swimming pool, in where you don't have you can't reach, the bottom, and say, do you know how to swim? That's the way I feel it. So of course, I chose, to be an engineer because that was your question. And in this, I could learn how, to think, how to, there is an issue, a project, how do you deal with it? That's what, my engineering academic, learning taught me, how to deal with things, how to sit down and say, okay, where is the problem? Ask the right question and then solve the problem. That's truly what I learned. But no, I'm not a typical engineer, but I know how to think. I know how to deal with the problems, and I know how to find the problems where it is. That's, really the skills I learned from being an engineer.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk about your 4-pillar model. First, give us the quick summary of the 4 pillars, what they represent.
Yeah, no problem. And all this journey brought me to the 4 pillars. So the 4 pillars is the first one, how to lead ourselves. Because in leadership, for many of us, we are going to lead a team, but first of all, we need to know how to lead ourselves. And all my journey taught me that, how to lead myself in different situations. So I'm going to go a little bit more in details in the 4 pillars later on, but I'm going to explain, first of all, what are the 4 pillars. The second one is about how to lead the team. It can be to lead a team that you are in charge of, but it can be as well to lead other leaders. Because at one point, we are here as well to help others to lead people, so how to lead the team, how to lead others, how to be, the model, that people can model actually. I'm not saying I'm a model, but people can model things that I have done, so that's what it is. The third one is about e-mastery, and e-mastery is all the E words. It's emotional, it's excellence, it's envision, it's all of that. And I speak not about emotional intelligence, I really speak about emotional mastery. And I'm going to explain why I'm saying that, because that's what we want to master, actually. And the last one is the soul care. How do I take care of myself? Like right now, it's been a tough 2 weeks for me lately, like a lot of changes, a lot of things. And I really needed, to rest a little bit more. So I'm taking the time to rest, even if there is so much to do, in the business. But I'm taking more, time to rest because this is soul care. Because if I burn out, I'm no use for anybody, That's the first thing. So how do I take care of myself? And the second thing about the soul care is how do I still enjoy life? Because here, leaders, we are here to bring a new vision of life. So if you don't enjoy it, what's the point at the end of the day? To bring a better world if we can't enjoy it, and to find out, peace with it. So those are the 4 pillars. Yeah.
I love that, and I do agree. As I told you in the green room, I have a very close alignment with those principles that you talked about. So let's go ahead and begin breaking it down. Let's start with that first one. Give us a little bit deeper understanding of that first element.
Definitely, the first one, which is how to lead myself, is to learn, about the journey, what I'm learning, how do I build myself, from the inner. I'm always saying to my clients, inside out. Build yourself from within, so then it can reflect outside. And that I learned from actually from Gandhi, who was saying, be the change that you want to see in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from within.
Mm-hmm.
So I always ask myself in every situation, and I started that very when I was very young. So if I want to the world to change, I need to change myself. And I was saying that when I was 15. So I was digging. What's and at the beginning I was asking the wrong question. I was asking what's wrong with me, which is not necessarily a good question, but not a bad question as well. So what's wrong with me? And then I change it, what I'm learning, what I'm here to learn. Because if I'm looking for what's wrong with me, I'm going to find always something. So I changed that question on the way. But at the beginning, it was what's wrong with me? Why this is showing up in my life? So I never said that it was the other one, the family, the parents, the partner, the children, whoever who were wrong. It was what is it showing to me? What do I want to learn from that? What am I learning? And this helped me to shape, how I lead myself, how I'm taking responsibility. That's a big word for me, taking responsibility. Yeah. Taking responsibility of my actions, taking responsibility of what I'm doing, what I'm showing. To be, we want to be authentic. What does it mean to be authentic? We learn all those words, but we are not taught what are those words.
Right, right.
I was. No, go ahead.
I find that an interesting question that sort of lead yourself, and there are many, many different things I think we can pack into that. As you said, what do you need to learn? What do you need to know? And as you were describing that, I was thinking about the concept. I think it's John Maxwell that talks about this, that, you know, if you're a reservoir and you're not full, if your water level's down, you have nothing to give. So you might be in the role, you might be appointed the leader of a team or whatever, but if you're empty, you have nothing to give. So there is that notion of keeping your tank full, whether that's reading, exploring, being curious, um, you know, going new directions, taking on personal risk. All of those things is what gives us that reservoir and that ability to have something to give. And even as you also described, I like your word serve versus help. Help is important, but I think for you and I in the work we do, serving others is the real key to it. But again, you have to have something to give, or else there's no proper connection there. And then the other thought that came to my mind as you were describing that is the word awareness.
Yes.
Just being willing to ask the question, am I showing up the way I intend to? And I encourage a lot of my executive clients to do a simple evaluation every day. At the end of the day, ask yourself the question, when you look through your calendar for the day, did I show up in each one of those moments the way I meant to? And if you say, no, I didn't, scale of 1 to 10, if I showed up as a 3, well, make a mental note. Don't beat yourself up, but make a mental note and say, what did I miss? What could I have done differently? And if you say, no, I kind of represented what I think I wanted to, but it still didn't work out, well, then you have a different question. What do I need to do differently next time?
Yeah.
Because
it's
even
about
though,
reflection, and
yeah,
you tell your executive to do that every day, and I do the same. You and me are very much alike. It's like I say we need to find, and this is part of the soul care, to take time for reflection. Reflection, contemplation is so much important, and it's not necessarily meditation. For me, it's different. In reflection, like you said, okay, what happened? And for me, it's to look at the signs. There is so many signs, there is so much information in the world with what people are saying, with what people are repeating, so what are the common thread? Because even with the common thread, you already have a lot of information, because usually life is showing you what you have to do. So for me, it's part of the reflection, and I've been doing reflection, since I was younger, which without knowing I was doing reflection, So contemplation, what does it mean? Why? And I tell my leaders, if you don't have time to do it every day, at least do it over the weekend. Because sometimes, we are more, we have more time. Usually it can be on the treadmill, or on your yoga class, or when you are doing whatever you are doing as a practice. That's part of the reflection as well, because then your mind is at peace because it's occupied doing something else. And it's not here to try to protect ourselves, because this is the role of the mind. The ego is there for that, and we are thankful. But then is occupied to do something, and then something else can land. So usually on Saturday morning when I'm going on at the gym, on my treadmill, I'm not going there to reflect, but it's coming,
Right.
and all the information is coming down. So that's
Right.
what people can do. They don't have to set times to do it, because the time is going to be there on the job.
Well, and all of that said, I think the key differentiator is the willingness on the leader's part to be open to that critique. And there are those that get in the role of leadership and they just get on the treadmill of life and they grind it out. I mean, that's where we get that kind of vocabulary is just grinding away at it. Well, when I hear somebody present that idea, to me, that's a red flag immediately, that they're not reflective, they're not aware of what they're doing, they're just sort of rolling with the tide. And that can't bode well for good outcome as a leader.
No. And like you said, the word awareness is part of my vocabulary as well. You need to be willing to be aware. You need to be willing to do that, because that's part of the inner journey. And if you are willing to do that, it's a choice for me. That's why for me, leadership is a lot about, responsibility and choice that we are making. It's a choice to want to reflect. It's a choice to be willing to be aware of what is showing up and do something about it, because that's what we are asked to do anyway in leadership. Leadership, is not something that we can do when everything is at peace and and the team is working fine and the economy is fine. That's not when we see, our skills. Our skill is when it's rough, the economy is rough, and then you have difficulties. And how do you behave in those situations? Everybody can behave, good when everything is good, but real leadership is, how do we handle ourselves when the path is rough? Because it's we are climbing
Right.
on the way
Right.
up, and that's why people are rare. Even oxygen is rare when we climb up, and that's why it's not for everybody. And it's okay that it's not for everybody. But when we make the choice to do the ascent of the mountain, then we have to be willing to look at ourselves. And if we are not willing to do that, ask someone to do it. It can be your spouse, it can be your children, it can be your coworker, it can be your mentor. Anybody can give you a reflection if you ask for it.
Right. Well, and one last thing, and then we need to move on. But the other thing that came to mind is this idea of, without this reflection and analysis of intent to show up in a certain way, you have no foundation as a leader. You are flapping in the wind, and I like to talk in terms of respond versus react when those things happen in your world. If you have no foundation, there's nothing from which to respond. And so you have nothing left but to react, which I know we're going to get to later, because you talk about the mastery and emotions, and that's where the reaction part comes in. So let's move on to number 2 of your pillars.
No problem. So number 2 is like, once you do that for yourself, then you can set the example for the other one. So then you can start to lead people, and lead people knowing that to bring the team, with you on the vision. It's like to have a vision, first of all, and to be able to have a vision, and is to know where I'm going and why I'm doing that and what for. And then for me, it's like leading others. It's not having me in the front and everybody at the back. It's really shoulder to shoulder. We are walking together to bring the vision together. Because for me, it's like a leader alone, he can't do his work. The team is necessary. So how do I, take care of the team? How do I, train the team? How do I foster growth for the team, to be autonomous? How do I do that and not making them, dependent of me? Because for me, it's like, I always ask, the people I work with, what is your team doing when you are not there? They have to be able to handle themselves. If you make them dependent of you and they do nothing when you are not there, it's a lose-lose for me. So what do I do in order for the team, like to lead this team and to lead other leaders, like I said, to be the right model for now, the model for now, and then I'm going still to evolve and be a better model. So what do I do to do that? And how can I lead the team not for them to be autonomous and independent? So we are carrying all of us, the vision. For me, it's really a share contract with me and the team. How can we share that? And because the team has good ideas as well. But if I feel that I'm, the only one who can, have the vision and can bring everybody, up there, it's not going to last. The people are going to say they never listen to us, so we are going to work with someone who is listening to us, to our good ideas. So for me, it's like really, how can I bring, this collaboration to bring, this vision in service to the world. It's not
Right.
up to the service to me, it's really to the world.
Right.
So everybody can have a voice at the table.
As you were talking about that, I was reminded of another quote from John Maxwell. He said, if you think you're a leader and no one's following, you're just walking around.
Definitely.
And, the other part that came to my mind as you were describing, I immediately pivoted over to my smaller and mid-sized businesses I do a lot of work with. Inevitably, those businesses suffer, and I'll use that word, suffer from the founder vision thing. And, the founder creator of the company kind of locks down on their idea and they don't delegate, they don't allow others to sort of exercise their own muscle, even though they might have trained them well and they understand the product or the service and they're working hard to deliver. The owner hasn't unshackled everybody. So you create a ceiling and a cap of where that business is going to go. And so many times when I've had the chance to deal in a situation where that founder is getting older and wants to exit the business and they put it up for sale and they bring a new owner in, that new owner has the benefit of just simply talking to the team. Hey, folks, do you have any ideas that haven't ever happened before? And they get flooded with these wonderful, amazing ideas, and it cuts cost, it improves margin, it creates efficiency, and it's an immediate win for the new owner, and but it's a dynamic that happens time and time again.
Definitely. And you know why? One of the reasons this dynamic is happening is because when we don't trust, because it can be a lack of trust, but it can be as well, because this is the baby, I'm the only one who knows how to bring it down, and I don't want the team to fail, because there is, this as well. We are afraid, sometimes leaders are afraid that the team is going to fail, that the company is going to fail if we take an idea that we are not responsible of. And that's when I like the quote from Amazon. The Amazon people, they say, to fail faster. And I'm telling that to my clients all the time. What does it mean to fail faster? It means that if we fail, we learn from it, and then, we recover and we move even faster because we are learning, from the failure. Actually, we need to find another word for failure. I think it's just an experience that we need, to go through in order to grow from it. So I really don't like this word.
Right.
Because it has a bad connotation. For me, it's good to fail. It's good to fail because I'm learning from it. So maybe practice, we need another word, definitely, than failure. And sometimes some owners, they don't like that, and they feel that if it's from an idea that a team member had from one of the CEO, whatever, a CFO or CSO, whatever, they are giving the ideas and they don't want to listen because they are afraid of that, and they don't want to take a common responsibility, which is, what it should be at the end of the day. Not easy, but definitely,
Right.
we are here for the marathon, not for the sprint.
Right.
The marathon.
Well, in that whole idea of anybody that's dealing with the notion of thinking an idea is going to fail, it's all a question of your relationship with that risk factor. And I had a guest on last year that talked about that whole idea of being a mentally strong leader and the idea was you have to ask yourself the question, what's my relationship to these things I'm thinking?
Yep.
If I think if I think I have a zero tolerance for risk, well, let's peel that onion. Let's look at the relationship in that. What am I really saying? What am I really thinking about risk? And I think that was a brilliant take on how someone in a leadership role needs to be able to. Again, we kind of go back to point one. Ask yourself the question. Why am I thinking that way? What do I need to learn to maybe do it differently or be a little bit different? Well, let's move
Especially
on to number three. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
sorry, just a quick one. Like risk zero doesn't exist. We have to make up our mind with that. Risk zero doesn't exist. There is always risk. So
Right.
I like you were saying, work on your relationship with the risk, because
Right.
there is always, even if
Right.
it's a small one, there is one. Risk zero doesn't exist. I remember being, in different corporation, doesn't exist. The risk zero doesn't exist. We don't. It does exist when we don't move.
Right. 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 So let's move on to pillar three then.
So the third one is e-mastery, and e-mastery is about the ability to be able to handle and to master our emotions, but not only emotions. Like I said, it's like a lot of e-word, like the envision, the excellence, all of them. And how do I do that? I'm going to speak about emotion because I know that that's a topic that you like in your show. I know many people speak about that emotion, but I'm going to try to give a different angle, so it's not a repetition, but more like another layer about the e-mastery. For me, it's our ability to stretch ourselves and the ability to stretch yes, our ability to stand whatever is happening. Or how can I stretch this ability? So in terms of emotion, for example, and then I'm going to give practical tools how to stretch that. Emotions, like is emotional intelligence, resilience. That people know, your audience know, because you spoke a lot about that. I listened to many of your shows. But I want to go to mastery. What's the next layer of that? Mastery is the ability when I am in a situation or a conversation and I know that emotion is coming up, to be able not to engage with the emotion and still to be able to have this conversation, knowing that you are not the one doing that to me, but this is me with my emotions, being triggered, but not to let the emotion take the reins and start to talk, and be able to put it on the side, not engage with it, finish the conversation, still listen to you, still be in presence of what you are telling me, not dealing with that, but not denying this is happening. So later on, when we are done with the conversation, and it's not about you doing that to me because you are doing nothing to me, it's me being triggered. Then later on, after the day is over, I'm going to go back with my reflection. Okay, let's deal with this emotion right now. I put a cap right now during the moment it was happening, but I don't want, and I want to lift the cap now. I want to hear that emotion, and I want, to process that emotion. I don't have to go to a deep dive, within this emotion, what is happening, but let it out. Let it out, because otherwise the reservoir, the tank is going to be filled up, with the emotions. So I'm going to listen to that emotion. What does it have to say? And what do I do, with the trigger that happened, during this conversation? Because the real thing is to work on the trigger, not on the emotion. The emotion is going to go fast, actually. But what is my mind telling, about me because I'm having this emotion? Okay, so let go of the emotion, okay, and then reflect on that. Okay, what was happening, and deal with it. Then you empty the tank of the emotions. So next time that you are going to have this conversation, the tank will be empty of the emotions, no trace, no background about that, and then I can have a nice conversation with you again, or with anybody. But this requires all this process. And sometimes we have the tendency to either to deny the emotion. No, I don't have any emotions. No, I said, that's not what you guys, I want you to do. And I talked last week with a group of managers, and they were telling me, but that's what we are taught to say, that we don't have the emotions. Say, no, that's going to be, end up in a bad way when you will be 40.
Somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. You don't want that, and you don't want to finish in burnout. So no, it's not to engage with the emotion when it's showing up, but to find a way to process it, to listen to it, to let it out, to free it, and then to process what's really happening. Reflection and move on. That's what it is.
I like that idea of processing it, giving it its moment when it's appropriate. What I was thinking about is, as you were describing that, I'm certified in the use of the Hogan assessments, and Dr. Hogan, in his backstory on all of that, he does talk about it's a common thread in psychological thinking and understanding that when we as human beings get under pressure, we have this alter ego that shows up. And when you really think about it, that alter ego is totally fueled by emotional response. And, in the Hogan work, what we talk to leaders about doing is being aware of what the likely the Hogan assessment does a good job of predicting how those things are going to show up in your life based on the way you're wired. And so the teaching is to self-regulate, first off, feel the pressure mounting, because that's going to pull the trigger on whatever that beast is that Mr. Hyde version of Dr. Jekyll, and but I like your add-on there that, allow that to be processed at some other time so that you can avoid that build-up and that mount-up of internal pressure that may never go away if you don't work it, if you don't process it. Yeah, I like that a lot. Well, for the sake of time here, Valerie, let's move on to number 4, if you will.
No problem. And this is a big one, the emotional mastery. For me, it's a very important, but it's a big one, and everybody should work on that, to find a process, a modality, someone to work on that. This is really so important. So the last one is the soul care, like he said, to find the right balance, the right harmony. I decided I'm not going to speak about balance, because balance, people get confused. Balance, we try to find the 50-50, usually, actually, in my world. So I said the right harmony, between your personal life and your professional life, which is, whatever you are doing, or you are the owner of the company, your company. And the right harmony is to find, sometimes it's going to be 50-50, but most of the time it's not going to be 50-50. Most of the time it's going to be 80-20, because this is the law. But 70-30, or sometimes it feels that it's 80-80, there is a lot of things, happening in my personal life, and on the top, the company is going through so much. So how can I find this harmony? Because I have to deal with that, but I have to take care of myself. Because if I am burnout, I'm no use. I'm no use to anybody. I can't serve anybody, the people. I can't serve my team. And then I let down of everybody. So it's about finding the discernment of where, I'm going, and to feel, the indicators, the signals. What are the signals? Like I was saying at the beginning of the show, last week I had the signals, this is like, it's going a little bit too much. You have to slow down a little bit, Valerie. I was telling that to myself. So I decided that this weekend I was not going to do so much. I was going to rest. And Monday I was still tired. So I said, okay, what can I clear in my agenda? Okay, what can I clear? And there was a couple of things I could, but some I couldn't. So I said, okay, this is part of the leader. Some we can't, change. So I'm going to do what is mandatory. And each time that I have, in between meetings, or in between, appointment with my clients, I'm going to rest, which usually I was going to work on something, on another offer, another something. I decided I wanted to rest. And sure enough, we are Tuesday, I'm already better. But if I hadn't done that, I would be crushed right now, tired, and then I'm no use, because I always say to people, they say, but I can't rest. I say, you know what? When you will be forced to rest and laying in your bed that nobody wants that, because it's no use for anybody, not for you, not for the team, not for the family, it's no use for anybody. Then you will be forced to rest. And we see so many of people, burning out. You don't want that. So Take the time now. Find a routine for you which is good to take care of yourself. What is it? You like to play golf? Go play golf. You like to spend quality time with your family? Do that. You like to go eat a nice healthy meal? Do that. But take the time for that. Don't put it always at the end of the priority. It's not. You have to bring it up at the top of the priority as well. It's as important as. But it can't be every day sometimes. But sometimes it will be. Sometimes you can have 2 days on vacation.
Yeah.
You can take a break.
I had a client a number of years ago that young man that was kind of in mid-career advancement and doing very well, tracking very well, but he had gotten into an assignment that was particularly challenging. And as the company hired me to help him out, and as we got into it, we had been coaching several months, and I could see the trajectory. The pressure was just continuing to build every time. And finally, I asked him. I said, "All right, let's forget all of the stuff going on right now. Let me ask you." I said, "What's your favorite thing in all the world to do?" And he thought a minute and he said, "I play guitar." And I said, "Oh, great." I said, "Just, are you in a band or anything?" He goes, "Oh, no, I haven't done that in a long time. I haven't had time." Okay. I said, let's talk about time. When was the last time you got out your guitar? He said, "I kind of don't remember." I said, "Okay, your assignment is you've got to find time. What are you doing this weekend?" He said, "Well, I really don't have anything." I said, "Then take your guitar, go wherever you need to go, and spend the whole weekend, reconnect with your guitar." And he thought a minute and he goes, "I can do that." And next time I got with him, I said, "So what happened?" He said, "Well," he said, "I have a little cabin in the woods and I took all my stuff and I got up there. And when I opened my case, I started playing." He said, "I played, I played, and I played, and I played. And when I finally looked up," he said, "You'll not believe this." He said, "I had been playing for 12 hours.
That's
He
so
said,
good.
I was just weaving through, different songs that were coming to mind and things I had done in the past, songs I'd even, written on my own. I was replaying them. And I said, "So how do you feel now?" He said, "I feel like a new man." He said, it's amazing." I said, "Okay, what did you learn?" He said, "I need to do that more often."
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said, "Yep, there you go."
I did that so many times with so many of my clients. Like I like to swim. This is the assignment. You have to go to the swimming pool. And then when they do that, they're transformed. Exactly the same story. I could have said the same story, but it was not the guitar, it was to swim. So
Yeah,
you see,
yeah.
exact same story.
Well, Valerie, we do need to wrap this up. This has been amazing. I've thoroughly enjoyed the talk
Me
and
too.
really appreciate your work on it. Tell folks the best way to get a hold of you if they're interested in knowing more about your work.
No problem. So they can get along with me on the website. So there is a website, I'm sure that you are going to put in the notes, which is Ellipsis, which is ellipse.us.com. So, this is where you can find all the information on me, all my social media. I am on LinkedIn. That's where probably you can find me the best, on LinkedIn and on my website. And what you can get from the website, you can get a free assessment, on leadership if you want to. I think it's always good. Like, assessment doesn't mean that we are starting, from zero. Assessment, it means that, very frequently, depends what is the frequency, assess myself where I am, and then I know what I have to work on. So that's why I said it's very interesting to do it, the frequencies depend on everybody, but do it frequently, so you know where you are at. And it's about the 4 pillars, and the fifth one, that is what is all about, because the 4 pillars are the foundation for something else, if of course, to land. So
Putting it all
that's.
together. Well, that's great. Well, yeah, one last time, thank you so much for
Thank you.
sitting in and sharing. It's been a pleasure to talk and get to know you, and more importantly, this great work and things that we can encourage leaders to consider wherever you may be. And as she alluded, folks, we're going to have those links in the show notes. So do feel free to hop down there. Be sure you do it at a safe place and take advantage of the free assessment that she's got. I do like to remind you, we do have a video version of this show over on YouTube, channel by the same name, Leadership Powered by Common Sense. Hop over there, check out the archives, and give us your comments and thoughts about what we're doing and any other ideas you've got for guests or topics you'd like us to explore. But for now, I'm going to sign off, say goodbye. Go out there, make it a great day.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.